Hello, entrepreneurs. You are tuned into the Non-Corporate Network. You are watching Entreprenews, a combination of CNBC and ESPN. Dustin and I debate the top 6 trending small business headlines for 3 minutes each. We each give our take.
I get the win.
You really threw me off there.
They curveballs Monday morning.
Christen me with the belt crown, and then we get on with the rest of our day. But thank you guys for being with us. We are fired up to bring you some high-octane stories. Dustin, do you have anything you want to add before we dive into this thing?
I appreciate you guys tuning in. You're watching Non-Corporate Network. We're just trying to deliver entrepreneurial news to entrepreneurs.
NCN, the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship.
I like it.
Thank you for being with us. Okay, so diving into our first story. AntiTrust Hearing with CEOs of Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Apple happening on Wednesday. The House Judiciary Committee is having a hearing with the CEOs of these companies as a part of a year-long investigation into the tech sector's anti-competitive behavior. The hearing will be conducted remotely to adhere to COVID social distancing guidelines. Thank you. What do you think about this? Are they going to actually make some policies here? And do you think antitrust, just to cite a couple of the reasons why this probe is even happening, there's some abuses as a part of each of these companies. CEOs control the ad market, Facebook's acquisition of WhatsApp and Instagram, Apple's App Store policies, and Amazon's treatment of third-party sellers. But again, do you think they're going to make policy, and is this something that they're in violation of?
No, I don't think they're going to make any policy anytime soon. I mean, we just made a sizzle reel, and we can go back to not that long ago whenever it was asked, how do you make money? And so, I mean, if you don't know how some of these businesses are making money, I mean, that's the first part of enacting some laws. But I mean, the antitrust law really goes down to protecting consumers, and I think that's where the loophole is and where these companies are getting away with it. The consumers are actually benefiting. It's the middlemen or the vendors that are essentially getting squeezed. I mean, I think you have some numbers on the App Store. It's like they charge 30% of all revenue, where sure, it's free for us consumers, but that person that's actually delivering the service or the product is the one that's being squeezed. And so going back to what we said on our last episode, it's not so much of new laws. It's just going back and revisiting laws that were created back in the 40s, 50s, whatever it may be. But I don't think it's going to be passed anytime soon. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the consumer is actually these businesses and the developers and the businesses that are putting their products on the App Store, putting their advertising up. Those are the consumers. Those are the ones that are paying for this, and they're the ones that are being gouged by, a variety of different things. So, I mean, whether it's the 30% commission that Apple is taking on any product that touches the App Store, where it's a necessity that you have to be on the App Store if you're developing an app, right? You have to be on the Apple App Store. And so you have no option but to take a 30% cut out of that. And then, looking at WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, they own the entire ad platform. Same with Google. They own the entire ad platform. They can set their own price. They can say it's based off demand or that it's based off of supply of how much ad space there is. But at the end of the day, it really is just comes down to them setting the price. And then, the commissions with Amazon sellers, don't even get me started on that. They're just continuing to hack away the commission that they're paying the sellers because they know they own the marketplace and there's nothing those people can do. So yeah, the end consumer might be getting a discount, but their consumer, the one that's paying them money, is getting gypped here.
Yeah, I mean, some of those, it's tough, but let me remind you of Friday when you were so pumped about Shopify and helping the Amazon seller. I mean, there are things that are being done, and that's the beauty of American capitalism is some other companies are going to see where people are getting squeezed and create some type of opportunity where they're going to come down on fees, and then you're going to have a wave of people that shift over. But I mean, to your point, the ad platforms and all that, I think it's going to be a deeper discussion and one that'll take time.
I will say I was pumped about Shopify because it's going to be an exodus from Amazon, not because it's going to help Amazon. But yeah, I digress.
Awesome. Thanks for digressing. On to our next story. 92% of U.S. businesses have reinvented themselves. Essentially, they're pivoting. I mean, I'm surprised this number isn't 100%, but according to those that are pivoting, what they are doing is they're creating new online delivery channels, new virtual services, offline delivery channels, they're creating new products, and they're finding new customers. Those that are pivoting are 3x likelier to see higher revenues this year, with 51% of those people that are pivoting are reporting forecasts of revenue higher in 2020 than pre-COVID. And so the biggest barrier to pivoting, though, is employees lack the knowledge or education to really help with that pivot, the scarcity of cash, which I don't know how that happens with the PPP loans out there, setting up online delivery. So it's a lot of technology and knowledge that's preventing businesses from pivoting. Where my mind goes, are we so doom and gloom right now, or are we going to look back in 5 years and go, wow, what a good time? I mean, it wasn't fun to go through, but with all this pivoting from businesses to consumers, I mean, we might see huge efficiencies in just how people operate in their day-to-day.
Yeah, I mean, COVID is really going to be known as the catalyst that kind of sparked consumer adoption of a lot of things, whether it be online delivery, whether it be video conferencing, whether it be remote work. It really kind of made us step up to the plate as consumers and adopt a lot of these things. So I think in that sense, it's definitely interesting. But, at the end of the day, as you mentioned, the education is going to be a barrier, and, it's scarce. So you're going to have to pay people more to have specific skill sets to help you to innovate. And with, we talked about last week, 40% of small businesses are on the rocks in the next 3 months, could be going out of business. And we've already seen a lot of businesses go out of business. I think it's too little too late that now we're just starting to pivot. People thought that this was going to kind of go back to normalcy and they weren't going to have to make these crazy adjustments or huge investments into their technology and their website and everything else. And now when they're sitting on, 1 or 2 months more cash, it's not like they can just turn it all around. So there was really not a lot of foresight, and the media kind of misled what this was going to really look like for small businesses. And so it's a bummer, but I'm still pretty doom and gloom for those businesses that are already struggling.
Yeah, I mean, just like with anything that you take 1 or 2 steps back to take 10 forward, I mean, you're going to have some stuff that falls off. I mean, it's the unfortunate side effect to this. But I mean, one thing that we mentioned is the education. I mean, how are we rethinking education as it is today? I mean, is it as powerful to solve for X when we know computers can do that? Or is it more important to learn coding, AI, blockchain, all those up and coming technologies where it's if we know that things are going this way, should we start teaching that in our school systems?
You should ask somebody that is in charge of education or on the board of education for colleges. I'm not seeing much of that.
Lots of conversation. So on to our next story. So COVID fee. There's lots of businesses that are starting to implement this, from dentists to restaurants to waxing salons to pretty much everyone. But it's essentially a line item that's an extra fee, just like whenever you go to fly. There are extra costs whenever you have to operate at 50%. You have to have hand sanitizers, masks you have to give customers. I mean, there's a lot of additional expenses, but one part of this is that, sure, it might cost an extra $1 to provide all that to the customer, but this fee is $1.50 or $2, so they're actually profiting off of these fees. All that being said, I mean, we've had 17 straight weeks of 1 million unemployment claims. So I mean, it's over 17 million unemployed, so people's wallets are stretched thin. Who does this fall on? Should this be baked into prices if you're a smart business? I mean, that'll bring in ruckus in terms of people being upset about increased prices. But I mean, how are businesses in the right? Are they in the wrong? How do we deal with this?
Yeah, I mean, nickel and diming consumers has always been something that will make them angry and make them less loyal to your business. And there's no better way to repel customers than to add a line item fee like that. And so, I mean, it's tough because these big corporate businesses, they have the ability to not have to charge that. And so they're going to just say, come one, come all, come on customers. We're not charging that much. We're still keeping our prices low, whether it's like Walmart, Amazon, all these companies, they're not charging any COVID fees. And so it makes it a lot easier for those corporate businesses to continue to retain and attract new customers, where the small business, I mean, the only way that they can stay afloat is charge more for the same thing. And people don't want to pay more for the same thing they were paying less for 2 months ago, especially when they don't have cash, especially when they're worried about finances. So, it's going to continue to create this gap between the small and the mid-size and large businesses. And I hate to see it, but, it's basic human psychology. We're not going to continue to pay more for the same thing.
No, and it's almost creating a larger divide between corporate America and the small business.
The S&P 5, baby.
The S&P 5. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's that they have less revenue, more cost. Their margins are getting smaller. So I mean, something has to be done. But I think it's on the education and the communication. I mean, if you're up front and just say, hey, we got to charge for this. I mean, if you're going to line item, COVID, whatever it is, why not just go a step further and itemize what all those things are?
Add some more value that doesn't cost
hand sanitizer, 25 cents, a mask, 30 cents. Like, I mean, at least people know what they're getting and know that you're not profiting. And I think it just comes down to the education.
What's the beauty of perceptual value? If you